There are people who laugh when pain strikes them the hardest.
Their laughter is not joy nor rebellion. It is a quiet disguise, a mask delicately painted over the tremors of the soul.
When life wounds them, they do not cry, they smile.
And in that strange, almost contradictory reaction, lies one of the most complex forms of human defense. The art of pretending that pain does not exist, when in truth,
it has consumed every corner of the mind. Some hearts are so accustomed to chaos that silence feels unnatural. When they laugh during pain, they are not mocking their suffering. They are simply trying to control it. Laughter, in those fragile moments, becomes a shield. A fragile boundary between what breaks them internally and what the world must never see.
It's the body's last attempt to maintain balance, to remind itself that it still holds some control, even when everything else is slipping away. The world often misunderstands them.
People say, "How can you laugh at something so painful?"
But those who laugh are not denying their pain. They are containing it.
Crying releases emotion.
Laughter restrains it.
Both are forms of expression, but one reveals and the other conceals. And for those who have lived through repeated disappointment, concealment feels safer. Pain, when unaddressed, does not vanish. It transforms. It learns to live in the gaps between breaths, in the pauses between sentences. It disguises itself in humor, sarcasm, or a playful tone that hides the fractures beneath.
For some, laughter becomes a coded language.
A quiet cry for understanding, wrapped in a sound that seems cheerful, but carries the echo of something broken. In psychology, this response is called incongruent affect, when the outward expression does not match the inner emotion.
Yet beyond clinical terms, there's something deeply human about it. It shows that the mind is still fighting for dignity, for control.
It's a coping mechanism born not from ignorance, but from strength. To laugh while hurting is to defy the very nature of suffering.
It is to say, you can wound me, but you will not see me fall. People who laugh when they're hurt have often been misunderstood since childhood. They learned early that vulnerability invites judgment.
They discovered that tears make others uncomfortable, that sorrow earns pity, and pity feels suffocating.
So they found another language, humor.
It became their armor, their translator, their quiet rebellion against despair. Laughter gave them power where they once felt powerless. Over time, the habit embeds itself deep within the psyche. Pain arrives, and the reflex is automatic. A chuckle, a smile, a witty remark.
Not because it doesn't hurt, but because acknowledging the hurt feels dangerous. There is a strange comfort in pretending that everything is fine.
It allows the mind to stay afloat, even when the heart is sinking. Yet beneath the laughter, there is often silence. A silence that holds the weight of all the unspoken things. When the laughter fades and the night grows still, the truth returns.
It sits beside them like an old shadow, reminding them that pretending is only temporary. Still, they laugh again the next day, because that's how they survive. To laugh when hurt is to carry two worlds within, the one that smiles and the one that screams.
And between these worlds lies a fragile balance, a thread that could snap if pulled too hard. But they keep it steady, because losing control feels like losing themselves. They've seen what happens when others fall apart, and they swore never to let that happen to them. There's something poetic about such souls. They wear irony as a crown.
Their humor has depth. Their smiles have history.
They find joy not because life is easy, but because they refuse to let it be otherwise. They understand that pain is inevitable, but despair is optional. So they choose laughter, not as denial, but as rebellion. This laughter, however, is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, soft, almost trembling. It escapes like a whisper between clenched teeth. It's a fragile thing, like glass that could shatter if touched too roughly.
It's the body's way of saying, I'm still here.
I'm still trying. And in that effort lies immense strength, the strength to keep living, even when life feels unbearable. Psychologically, humor in pain creates distance. It allows people to observe their suffering rather than drown in it. By laughing, they turn themselves from victims into observers, from sufferers into storytellers. And that shift, however subtle, gives them power.
It transforms the unbearable into something manageable, the chaos into something almost meaningful. But there is also a danger.
The more someone laughs at their pain, the less others notice it.
They become known as the strong one, the funny one, the one who never takes things seriously. And so, their suffering becomes invisible. Their pain, though silent, deepens in isolation.
They may begin to feel unseen, misunderstood, even unworthy of care. Their laughter becomes their curse, a beautiful disguise that no one looks beneath. In relationships, this pattern can create distance. When they laugh at what should hurt, others may assume they are unaffected. But inside, they are aching for someone who can see beyond the surface, someone who notices that their smile is trembling at the edges. Yet they rarely admit this. Their pride, built from years of self-protection, won't allow it. Vulnerability feels like betrayal, to themselves, to their identity, to the image they've worked so hard to maintain. And yet, the truth remains, people who laugh when they're hurt are often the most sensitive souls. Their empathy runs deep. They feel everything intensely, but hide it behind humor because they believe the world won't understand.
They've spent too long being told to lighten up, to move on, to not take things to heart. So they learned to carry their emotions lightly, dressing them in laughter so no one sees the weight. There's a strange paradox here. Laughter born of pain is both healing and harming. It eases the burden in the moment, but it delays the healing that comes from true expression.
Because to truly heal, one must allow themselves to feel the raw, unfiltered ache that laughter often covers.
But many don't. They fear that once the dam breaks, they won't be able to stop. Over time, their laughter becomes a habit, then a reflex, and finally, a part of their identity.
They forget what it means to express pain openly.
They may even judge themselves for wanting to cry.
It's not pride, it's fear. Fear of what will happen if they let go. Fear that their inner world will collapse under its own weight. And yet, there's something beautiful in their restraint.
It shows an extraordinary ability to endure, to find light even in the darkest corners.
Their laughter, though born of pain, becomes a form of wisdom, a way of saying, if I can laugh at it, it cannot control me. It's not denial, it's defiance.
The spirit's quiet way of saying it still holds power. Society often praises strength, but misunderstands it. It glorifies composure, not realizing that sometimes composure is simply suppressed emotion.
True strength is not the absence of tears. It's the courage to let them fall.
But those who laugh when they're hurt have been conditioned to equate emotion with weakness.
So they continue to smile, unaware that their greatest act of bravery would be to finally stop pretending. Laughter, in its truest form, is connection. It bridges people, eases tension, brings warmth. But when it becomes armor, it also creates distance. Behind every laugh born of pain, there's a quiet longing to be understood. To be seen not for the humor,
but for the heart behind it. It is a strange kind of loneliness, to be surrounded by people who love your laughter, but do not know your sorrow. To be admired for your resilience, but unseen for your wounds. This loneliness is subtle. It hides behind jokes, behind easy smiles.
It whispers in the pauses after laughter fades, when the room grows quiet and the truth resurfaces. There comes a moment, often in solitude, when the laughter no longer works, when the old defense begins to crumble, when the person realizes that the pain they've hidden has been waiting, patient and silent beneath every smile. That's when the true journey begins, the return to authenticity, to feeling without fear. But that return is never easy. It feels like learning a forgotten language. Tears feel foreign.
Vulnerability feels unsafe.
And yet, it is through this very discomfort that healing begins. Because one cannot release what one refuses to feel, the mind learns to adapt to trauma. It builds walls, constructs humor, creates distractions, but the heart remembers. The body remembers. Every unspoken emotion lingers, waiting for acknowledgement. And laughter, though powerful, can only keep it contained for so long. Eventually, the cracks show. Still, there is hope in that.
Because when the mask breaks, what emerges is something raw and real. A person who finally understands that it's okay to not be okay. That sometimes, laughter isn't strength. It's a cry for help disguised as joy.
And in realizing this, they open the door to something new, compassion.
Not just for others, but for themselves. People who laugh when they're hurt are not broken. They are beautifully complex.
They've turned their wounds into wit, their sorrow into humor.
They have found a way to carry pain gracefully. But grace should never mean silence. The world needs to learn that strength and softness can coexist, that it's possible to laugh and still hurt,
to smile and still need comfort. And perhaps, the next time someone laughs at their pain, Instead of questioning it, we might pause and listen.
Not to the sound of the laughter, but to the silence beneath it, because that silence often speaks the loudest.
There comes a time when the laughter no longer feels like a choice.
It becomes instinct, a reflex wired deep into the nervous system, firing not from joy, but from habit. Pain arrives, and before the mind can process it, the mouth curves upward.
The sound of laughter escapes, hollow and trembling.
It's not a celebration.
It's survival. It's the mind saying, I will not let you see me bleed. But over time, this survival mechanism begins to blur the lines between who they are and who they've become. They start to forget what genuine laughter feels like.
The kind that rises from lightness, not from the weight they've carried too long. What once was a coping tool begins to morph into emotional camouflage, hiding not just pain, but identity itself. Some people spend years laughing away their sorrow until they no longer recognize it as sorrow.
They convince themselves they've healed because they can joke about their past. They tell their stories with humor, turning wounds into punchlines. And for a moment, it feels freeing, like reclaiming control. But deep down, the heart knows the truth.
It knows that pain turned into performance still lingers, unhealed and waiting. It's a quiet tragedy, to be so good at pretending that even your pain begins to believe the act.
To smile so convincingly that your own reflection no longer questions it. This is the psychology of hidden suffering, when laughter becomes a self-defense so powerful that even the self forgets what it's defending against. The human mind is wired to protect itself. When emotional pain becomes unbearable, it finds detours, humor, distraction, denial.
These are not flaws.
They are forms of wisdom born from endurance.
To laugh when hurt is to use light to navigate darkness.
But when that light becomes permanent, it blinds rather than guides. It keeps one walking forward, but never inward. There's something paradoxical about laughter. It is both a release and a restraint. It can heal by easing tension, or it can wound by suppressing truth. When someone laughs through heartbreak, they're not mocking their suffering. They're managing it.
But every unacknowledged emotion eventually seeks expression.
What isn't cried out becomes stored within the body. Tight shoulders, restless minds, sleepless nights. Pain unspoken becomes memory, and memory becomes identity. Those who laugh when they're hurt often carry a quiet exhaustion, not from the act of laughing, but from the effort of maintaining it. They become experts at emotional control, always measured, never fully breaking. But control comes at a cost. It denies the raw humanity of emotion, the permission to tremble, to grieve, to fall apart. And when control becomes constant, the body begins to whisper what the voice refuses to say. Anxiety, fatigue, numbness. These are the echoes of all that laughter tried to silence. Some reach a point where laughter turns into irony. They begin to recognize the absurdity of it, the way they hide pain behind humor, even when alone. They laugh in solitude, not out of amusement, but habit. And in that lonely chuckle, they see the reflection of every time they've chosen strength over honesty. It's in that recognition that awareness begins, the fragile first step toward healing. Healing, however, is not about abandoning laughter.
It's about reclaiming it. It's about transforming it from a mask back into music.
It begins with permission, the permission to feel fully, even when it's messy. To let silence exist without needing to fill it with jokes.
To let sadness arrive without apologizing for it.
True healing begins not in laughter or tears, but in acceptance, that both are valid languages of the soul. Psychologically, those who laugh when they're hurt often struggle with emotional trust. They fear that revealing pain will disrupt relationships, or worse, burden others. Their compassion for others outweighs their compassion for themselves. They are the kind who listen deeply, but speak cautiously, who comfort others effortlessly, yet flinch when comfort is offered in return.
Because deep inside, they've internalized the belief that their pain must always be managed privately. But the human heart is not meant to heal in isolation. Even laughter, the most social of emotions, loses meaning when no one understands it. Connection is not built through perfection. It's built through vulnerability.
It's the moment when someone says, "I see through your smile," and the walls begin to tremble. The greatest relief for such souls often comes not from laughter, but from being seen without needing to laugh at all. There's a quiet beauty in that moment of surrender, when the smile fades and what's left is honesty. The kind that doesn't seek sympathy, only understanding. It's in those rare pauses between the echoes of laughter that they discover what peace actually feels like.
Not the peace of pretending, but the peace of being real. The psychology of laughter in pain is not simply defense. It's a mirror of resilience. It reflects the human tendency to turn even suffering into something survivable.
It shows how creativity emerges from discomfort, how humor becomes a language of adaptation.
There's genius in it, even if it's tragic.
Because only those who've been broken know how to make light out of darkness. Yet, even resilience can become armor too heavy to wear forever. The longer one hides behind humor, the harder it becomes to take it off. The laughter becomes expected, by friends, by family, by self. People start saying, "You're always so positive," unaware that positivity was never the goal. It was the disguise. And so, the expectation grows heavier.
To break character feels impossible, even when the performance begins to hurt. The world celebrates those who smile through pain, calling them strong. But strength without softness turns into isolation, the kind that feels like standing in a crowded room, smiling, while something inside quietly sinks.
They become experts at making others feel better, yet forget how to comfort themselves.
They laugh to ease tension, to avoid pity, to maintain control.
But each time they do, they step further from their own emotional truth. Eventually, there comes a point where the laughter starts to sound different. It feels forced, hollow, out of sync with the heart. They begin to crave something quieter. Not laughter, not tears, but stillness.
The kind of silence that doesn't demand performance.
This is when healing begins to whisper again, calling them back to authenticity. Healing for such souls is not dramatic. It's subtle.
It begins with moments of honesty, often alone.
A sigh that escapes after years of pretending.
A song that suddenly makes them cry. A memory that surfaces uninvited. These moments are not breakdowns, they are breakthroughs.
The laughter that once hid pain begins to dissolve, and what's left is raw truth, trembling but real. It's in this vulnerability that transformation begins.
Because laughter, when stripped of defense, becomes genuine again. It regains its purity, the sound of the soul exhaling, not the mind deflecting.
It becomes something new, not armor, but expression. From a psychological lens, this shift represents integration, the process of uniting the hidden self with the expressed self.
When one learns to laugh and cry with the same honesty, the emotional system regains balance. They no longer fear their feelings. They no longer view tears as failure or laughter as escape.
Instead, both become sacred, two sides of the same truth. In time, those who once laughed to hide pain learn to laugh to heal it. Their humor deepens. It becomes compassionate, reflective.
They begin to laugh with life, not against it.
This evolution marks a profound emotional maturity, the ability to find joy without erasing sorrow. Because true joy doesn't come from avoiding pain.
It comes from surviving it. Somewhere along this path, they also begin to forgive themselves for coping, for pretending, for all the laughter that once felt false.
They realize that laughter was never weakness or denial. It was courage. It was the only way they knew to keep breathing when silence became unbearable. And, in that realization, self-compassion blooms. There's immense beauty in people who laugh when they're hurt.
They embody one of the most human truths, that even in pain, we search for light.
That even in despair, we seek something to soften the weight. Their laughter may have begun as armor, but it carries wisdom now. The wisdom that pain and joy are not opposites, but companions. Over time, they begin to see the value of both. They start to understand that pain carves the space where laughter later lives.
That to laugh deeply, one must have first known sorrow.
It is this duality that makes laughter sacred, a bridge between suffering and strength, between what breaks us and what rebuilds us. Eventually, their laughter changes tone.
It becomes slower, warmer, more honest. It no longer hides anything.
It simply exists.
It carries memory, but not weight.
It becomes gratitude, the quiet appreciation of still being here.
Still finding reasons to smile after all the storms. And maybe that is the true psychology of people who laugh when they're hurt. Not avoidance, not denial, but endurance. They remind the world that even when life cuts deep, the human spirit finds ways to rise. That laughter, even born from pain, is proof of survival. It says, "I've been through the dark, and I still choose light." In the end, laughter is neither right nor wrong.
It is simply human. It can protect, it can connect, it can heal. What matters is not the sound it makes, but the truth it carries. Whether it hides pain or releases it, laughter tells the story of resilience, of a heart that refused to go silent. And perhaps that's the quiet miracle of it all, that even when hurt, the soul still finds a way to sing. That somewhere between the ache and the laughter, humanity reveals its most profound truth. We survive not by avoiding our pain, but by transforming it.